I know.
Some days. Hey.
You expecting everyone here tonight?
As far as I know, I saw Cindy earlier, so I expect her to be here.
Brent was stressed.
Okay, Brent's gonna be on.
I'm sitting here.
Me.
Okay.
So you can sit one of these, but Sean will be here, and I think Brent will be.
Okay.
Yeah. I zoomed in here a bit. Right excited that it shows it, it's really coming down all the way across the street.
Yeah.
It's over the sidewalk all the way up to the house. It seemed to just sort of spread out there. At the end of this, I zoomed in, so I should have zoomed in. You can see that whole street. It's on the sidewalk.
It's been a while.
So keep looking at my phone. And it's over all of that sidewalk. This is from the board. Just a second, I'll zoom in. You'll see that it just turned into a big.
Wow. That's really.
Yeah, this is only like that, so it's all up on that sidewalk. And it's, you know, I don't think that's right. Yeah.
Xander.
So the worst thing is, it goes, you see how you come out of the canal towers.
Thank you. Okay, are you? Yeah. Like my eyes for reach to that, but. I thought it was, what, the highway?
You see that?
So keep hearing it on the radio. Yeah. It's.
And I was shocked, it's actually up in there, I think I didn't believe it. On that corner, but it was over their sidewalks. I think they have that sort of inside. They used to have some sandbags out there, and I noticed they haven't had us for quite some time.
It's super.
There's like.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
The white range, I've seen, it's flowing before it gets.
Well, we're gonna pave all that next year and sweat more that direction. So we can only fit the concrete in there. But the plan is it will work. It may not work right now.
I just hope that this will just roll over.
Oh, yeah. It's on to the other side, yeah. Well, I'm asking them to backfill behind that stuff.
That's all I do.
Yeah, they're doing it right now. If they don't do the jump, then I'm gonna have to do it, just come back and add more buildings and stuff behind it. Yeah, I was concerned about that too. Yeah.
I just want to look at the state since it's not that safe. Are we looking for a window or not? Have you heard anything?
The last we talked to, they can't get the section. So I haven't moved forward on it. So you wanna, you would,
Well, if you hear anything or let me know, it'd be nice.
we can move forward on it immediately.
Okay, I'll change the size though.
No. Yeah, it would keep it wood. So I need to come back.
Sorry. It's okay. Okay. Are you ready, Sandy? Okay, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. Please take roll.
Joan Eaton.
Here.
Sean Platt. Here. Cindy Neely.
Here.
Betsy Blakeslee.
Here.
Mark Reynolds.
Here.
Hamilton.
Here.
Brent Ganzer.
I'm just gonna listen unless there's a reason I feel like I need to chime in,
Okay.
so.
Okay, can we have approval of the agenda?
Yeah, when we're doing the various discussions at the end, we might put in the items to track the streetscape.
And under the Understrose Park, the Deer Stone approval.
Okay. Anything else? Any other questions?
With motion to approve the agenda with the additions.
Second,
Well, second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, items business. Is anyone here not on the agenda that had something?
I'm not sure if I'm on the agenda. I should be. but,
What's your name?
Jared Weldon.
You are. Okay,
Oh, okay.
all right, we'll call you up over your turn. Alrighty, so, older new business, because we want to start with just one on the top, we won't wait long, I think.
Let's go.
Okay, so first is Kathy Hinnerman, 806 River Street. And this is her greenhouse, which we discussed previously, she needed to go to the Board of Adjustments for.
Yeah, I think the minutes should know that she did present it preliminarily and it was directed to the Board of Adjustments.
Yes.
The Board of Adjustments has, granted her the variance for the placement of the greenhouse, which is the same greenhouse she chose. One that's in the application, it's the same greenhouse she chose. I would think you're in book two, page 91, it's an accessory structure. Greenhouses are greenhouses, but, page 91, and it's section 5 of the company. Try chapter 9. And I wrote down A because it's located to the rear of the lot. Yes, it's in the back corner. And it is subordinate. B, subordinate in size and character. And B1, it is in general unobtrusive and will certainly not visually compete with the house. And C, it does have the regular sort of rectangular form. It does, of course, not have the traditional form.
It has like brick floor or paper floor, it's set in sand.
Yeah.
And,
The materials, the only thing I had a question on was, I can't tell if the materials are white or if they're just raw aluminum.
I think they're aluminum.
we discussed that, didn't we? It was the kind
Probably
of
did, yeah.
weather or.
And we have asked that they.
Was it painted or did they, what, were they weathered?
I think they would weather, so they wouldn't be as fish, and
You can't.
it would oxidize basically.
So we don't want reflective metal to stay reflective. So I think that should be a stipulation.
Stipulation 9,
Well, just so that there's some kind of coating on it.
It should be that oxidized.
You ready for a motion?
yes.
I move that we approve the application with the site was noted and the stipulation that the frame be uncoated and allowed to oxidize so that it is non-reflective.
All right, and your second?
I'll second it. All right.
Any more discussion or any comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, next we have Jeff. Says Marconi. Jeff here, or someone for Jeff? Okay, so we've got two fences on 1112 and 1116.
And actually, they're exactly the same fence in two different locations for exactly the same purpose.
The big question I have is,
This one's a-
it's on real property, which I don't have a problem, I think, does he say it's a, yes, a 6-foot wood privacy fence? My question is, where is it going? Because, on 1112, I'm assuming it's going above the rock wall, which I'd be fine with, that backs up against my house. The other one, on 1116, there's a 4 to 5 foot drop from my neighbor's property down to the grade level where he shows on that, on like this diagram too. So is the intent to put it on top of at the neighbor's grade or at the grade where his property is?
I suspect wherever his line is, right?
Would have to be on this one.
Yeah, well, I suspect the line is in question also, but that would need to be certain, I guess.
Can we do that with a stipulation?
Well, what we have asked for fences on the back of the application is that they need to have a plot plan, and he's given us sort of a plot plan, it just doesn't tell where it is on the ground. You know, because on the back of each one, it does have a plot plan.
Yeah, it's across the back of the lot.
Yes. What you're saying is that the neighbors may not agree where that line is. We can't,
What would be the
That's
height?
how the line is.
yes, but we can't.
That's not our issue.
Right, so,
The issue I would have is whether it's being set at the finished grade location for the property, his property, or if it's being set at a higher elevation. I mean, he's gonna have to build something there. He can't just have he can't just have a 4-foot cut
yeah,
into that bank, or put rocks there or something.
What you're saying is,
If you stand at the back of the house, you're looking at dirt that's 4 to 5 feet,
right,
and that's up to Ham's grade.
but your concern is, will we put it on top of that bank or put it
Yeah, on
the grade?
my guess is he'll put it on top of the bank.
so I think you're right, on this picture, there's a line, a magic marker line drawn straight up, and it looks to me like it's more on top than.
Oh, it is on top.
Because that's where he put it on 1112.
And there's gonna have to be.
It's not as much of a rock wall there, but it's
Yeah,
probably 3 feet above grade.
yeah, there'll have to be some kind of stone there, you can't just build a fence on the edge of the dirt there.
So we could approve the fence, but the location has to be,
Approved.
would we approve it on top of a rock wall, a 6-foot high fence? So from his property, it may be as high as
8 feet.
10 feet.
But you know what,
That's 4 foot.
because of the grade of the property next door, it's kind of like Betsy's was, you know, your neighbors would fall into your yard if you built my other side, so you kind of have to. Don't lie, but,
Plus it gives neighbors a little more privacy.
it gives them a 6-foot fence, which is sort of the thing, you don't want a 10-foot fence on their side. So if they only have the 6-foot fence on their, visible on their side, I think he used the retaining wall, so either way, it's gonna have to be above the retaining.
And in the case of the slope, I think we would say that because it's, if you were flat, that's one thing,
Yeah,
but if you're not.
there's a
the
difference
house
in
up
grade.
to- yeah,
There's a step change.
There's a real step change, and so for him to put that fence up there is the thing that will give the upper house some privacy.
I know when he had the fence on 11-12, he had it at the deck level, which is roughly, 18 inches. He had it between he actually had it attached to the edge of the deck.
Yeah.
And it, kept rolling over.
Well, it also doesn't, if his property line is up there,
His property line is above.
is above the rocks.
Yeah, it's right with the rock line.
Yeah, and so I can see he's better off with that.
And that, I think, is what his intent would be, but
He's better off visually, also, with it from both sides.
but didn't we have an issue with the house down on Main Street that they had the big tall
Well, they had,
fence?
yeah, like.
And it was in the front, but what did we resolve in the back? Because it was a similar situation where they built it on top of,
A 6-foot wall.
and I think we had to put a 6-foot
Yeah.
fence on top of the wall that was there.
Yes, we did.
So that would be
They
tolerable.
changed the front, that's what. we
Yeah,
did.
right.
But the front was right on the
They
street.
backed on the junkyard there, and so it became sort of a non-issue, I think.
So are we okay with 112? 11-12 Griffin, the way that's presented?
Yes, and you're on book 3. Book 3, page 81. Section 2. And I thought it's fences, walls, and gates. A3, the fence for screening an animal enclosure may reach that these should be located behind a building and animals were enclosed and located. And B, that the appropriate materials are wood iron, and this is a wooden, picket, solid picket, not space picket.
Cedar, yeah.
Cedar fence. No big details.
Make that be a purposeful.
Do we want any stipulations on level 16? You need to add anything,
I don't think so.
as long as he's building on top?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, I can take a motion.
I make a motion to accept 11-12 Griffin Street and 11-16 Griffin Street with the signs presented.
Your second.
One second.
Is there any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Yes. Okay. Next one.
How about 301 Wood Street? Anybody here for that? Just come on up, grab
There's a couple up on,
Okay,
up on the screen
just
also.
grab that comfortable chair.
Okay.
And introduce yourself, please.
Sure,
What's your address?
absolutely. My name is Robert Coletti, and the
my wife and her two sisters own the house on 301 Rose. And so my wife's up on screen also there, and my brother-in-law and his wife, the other sisters there also.
Why don't you tell us what you're doing?
Yeah, so we got a shed in the back, and it has survived many, many, many years with the shingles on it, but the shingles are getting to the point where we're really getting a little concerned about their integrity. It does not currently leak, but we are thinking it's going to be pretty close. There's some pictures there. You can probably see how curled up they are.
Right.
And so we're looking to replace the shed roof. We just recycle it. No, we're going to, so I did submit 3 metal shingle options to show you. We would like to move to a metal option.
Sure.
I don't know if they were included with it. We did drop it off with it, but we'd like to go to the metal option just to give it a little more longevity.
On the roof,
Yes,
this is, a house is a contributing structure to landmark district, which makes property contributing property to the landmark district. And so I think,
yeah, it's one of the oldest houses in Georgetown.
I understand that.
Yeah,
I certainly understand that. It's a great house.
But we plowed metal on the sheds before. And,
No, not that I know of, not on historic properties. I also, we don't have an example of what metal you're talking about.
well,
Well, did you bring it to the office?
we did, when we turned in the thing, that we gave you 3 different types of metal options there.
I can go downstairs and look.
Okay.
They're pretty big, you can't miss them, they're about that big. There's 3 different colors, but we're not actually showing you for the colors, we're showing you for the texture and for the design.
my thinking was that we were out of quarter. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't think, we certainly don't allow it on the coast.
Right.
We don't allow any metal roofs on historic houses. But as far as sheds go, I don't know that we have a precedent on a historic property.
Because there's examples all over town of metal on sheds.
And
No, so the shingle.
On shed roofs,
Yes.
but this is this.
This is just the roof.
It's just a roof.
I understand, but this shed is, that's actually,
It's not connected to the house.
no, but it's actually not. A shed roof is a slanted roof, right, a low angle slanted roof,
Correct.
not a roof on a shed.
Oh, I see what you're saying. It's small.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
a, you know, that's what I'm
I
saying.
understand what you're saying.
That was, I listened.
Because sometimes on the.
But it's not a shed. Yeah, it is.
It's shed roofs,
it's a gable there on the shed.
How big is the shed?
It is about 18 feet, 19 feet by 7.5 feet.
Okay.
But the one shed,
Oh, I'm sorry, 20 feet. I'm looking at the wrong side. 20 feet by 12.5 feet. There we go. Sorry. I was like 7.5 feet doesn't sound right. I was just standing in it today.
So it's almost garage size.
yes.
Look at page 80. I couldn't get a car in there. There's no
No,
way.
no, but I mean,
I mean, maybe the size of a car, yes. No, no, it's the size of a car. I could probably put my car at least at the footprint of it.
So it's way back in the back of the lot.
It is.
But it wasn't.
Historically, it's a chicken coop from Seaford, from the previous,
That's on new buildings. C says roof materials on new buildings should be restored. Accessory or industrial.
you know what?
It's not-
There, look. And I checked.
Okay, so were they standing seam metal?
Yeah, actually, 82 is probably. Yeah, Warren, can you speak into that? They don't have the samples.
Or was there?
If you can
already-
If I can share my screen, I have some cut sheets of the material, the aluminum material we're
Can
using.
you do that?
Yes, please.
Okay. Go ahead, Warren.
There.
Okay.
Share.
All right, can we see the screen now?
No.
Yeah,
Oh,
show that next sheet there.
So I mean, you're 1950.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's, I don't know if you can see it there, but there's different finish options. Let me see if I can read them from here. So the first one is a wood grain option. This guy, you see it's got some level on it there, and then the next one's a slate option. It's got a little more texture to it. An embossed option, which is not textured, but it's the first one, and then smooth. And we don't want the smooth. And then in terms of the color, it's currently kind of a red. The gray is on the house.
Yeah.
But we're okay with if you decide the red or the gray, it doesn't matter to us, but it's not just a sheet of metal. We're trying to give it some sort of a structure that looks like, or integrity like
here, show this.
their actual shingles. These are metal
Zoom
shingles.
in on that
Metal
picture.
shingles though, yeah. that's
Yes,
what
they're aluminum.
It's not a standing seam roof.
No, ma'am.
Yeah, and folks, we're on page 82.
Yeah, I think 82 was probably the. Warren, can you zoom in on that section of that house?
So they don't give it, what? The finished look on them is they are flat and they butt up against each other?
They basically
They
interlock.
look just like,
Yeah, they interlock with each other and they look just like that. Those are,
So they're shingles.
They look like a shingle.
they look like a shingle, but they're metal. Can you go a little closer on that, Warren?
I'm zoomed all the way. I can pull in one of the other pictures.
You can see that they look like shingles.
Yeah, our intention is obviously, I mean, it's been in the family since 1939. Our desire is to maintain as close as possible.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We don't want to junk up the historic society, historical area. So our desire is to make it look as good as possible, but we also need longevity of the shingles with the wind and everything.
Well, that's really interesting. Yes.
Your test case.
I was gonna say.
Good test
No, that's.
Okay, all right.
That's right. On
There used to
page
be one in
83,
Summit County.
and
It
it
was
says,
roofed with a metal shingle.
To
It looked pretty similar to.
the house.
It was it was a business. There was a house in Summit County that had metal shingles on their roof. They're looking similar to a shingle. They're a little bit larger than what a shingle would be.
Warren, do they offer any other views on their website?
I have a different cut sheet if you'll let me go to a different page.
Yeah, go ahead.
there.
I don't think we need that.
Okay.
I think we're fine.
but we do, which one of those varieties, could you put the variety sheet up?
Sure. Warren, they need to see the variety sheet again.
Which one do you prefer? Which one are you
Oh,
really
there
asking for? Oh, there you are.
Yeah, make it a little smaller, yeah.
There's wood grain slate and what's the?
Yeah, wood grain, slate, embossed, and smooth. So I don't think the smooth, honestly, we were just kind of leaving it open to you guys
I
because
understand, but what is your preference?
what do you guys think for preference, Warren and Ann?
I would prefer slate or the embossed.
Okay, that's what I
It
was
has some
thinking.
texture. It has some texture to it.
Yeah, it looks a little more like a shingle, like a rough shingle, like the house has. So probably the slate.
Okay.
Okay, this, and on page 83 for us, it says metal roof materials should be earth tones
Okay,
and have a matte, non-reflective finish.
yeah, they won't reflect, yeah.
We can't tell you what color,
Right.
but we hope you will consider the color.
But we
of your
like,
house.
we like the gray color. Well, honestly, yeah, earnestly, we'd probably go with the gray just because it'll match the house as close as possible. So we'll probably go with that dawn gray. That's the closest to the house's color, if that's all right. Because the charcoal gray, I think, is too dark. Is that all right?
Yes, as long as we get that map finished,
Okay,
so.
yeah, I'm sorry we don't have those shingles with us. We did turn them to 3 in, we were hoping that,
And
we were,
we can all each pop by.
We will actually go downstairs
Yeah, we
at
can
some
look at
point
it,
and
but
look.
it shouldn't be a problem.
okay.
But it's interesting.
Do you happen to have extra samples too, in case they're lost?
We
I don't-
don't, we got those, go ahead, Warren.
Yeah, I don't. I only got those samples.
Yeah,
You know, they graciously gave me some.
It's your
I'm-
private access.
Yeah.
I'm not in Colorado to bring them up either.
No worries.
Cindy, we had a couple sightings, I'm sure, so.
so from what I remember of the samples, they were not shiny at all, not reflective at all. They're very matte color. So,
What was the company?
what's the
Company is-
company, Warren?
Permalock,
Permalock,
Permalock.
like permanent locks.
Okay,
So I can look it up.
There it
I
is.
don't know how historic the shed is.
Well, I can give you some history on it. I mean, it's been there prior to the house's purchase in 1939. There are pictures we have of the house of the owners that the previous owners had. It was a chicken coop, which was turned into a shed. And that was, you know, that would have been in the 1920s through 39 before Valley's died. When he died, then the house was purchased in 39 by Trelease. So prior to that, go ahead, Ann.
The current roof was put on in 1976.
Oh, okay.
That's amazing.
Right, which is why we're going, yeah, we probably better do something. Yeah, when you get 50 years out of a roof or 60 years out of a roof, you're like, okay, we're good, but we probably better do something.
So this is the red and gray house.
Correct.
Yeah, I was right across the street of Brick House.
Oh, okay, great. The Ludi house.
Yes, that's what you would call it.
Mhm.
Wow.
That's how the whole connection's connected. Ludi and Trelease were friends, and that's how they ended up with the house.
Yes, yes, yeah. But its original owner goes back to Sam's, hers goes back to Sam's house.
Got it.
Yours goes back way.
On page 83,
Okay,
D,
yeah, we're 1876, and I think we're 1867.
D1.
67.
Material should be earth tone and have a matte, non-reflective finish.
I think it also could be on page 82, C, the roof materials on the building should appear similar to those used traditionally.
Yeah.
This isn't a metal roof in the sense of what.
Right, just a big sheet of metal kind of thing, yeah.
Withstanding seams, this is an attempt to give a shingle appearance.
Yeah, I won't see that. Okay, anything else?
Do you want D9 physical samples of metal roofing materials must be provided since he did?
Oh, yeah, bring them.
Yeah, let's go ahead and show you the notes.
Okay,
Or,
B9.
I'm sure they're downstairs somewhere. We just, I mean, they're not little. They were 3 big pieces,
So
so.
that's why they're not apparent, she's got stuff somewhere.
But I think it's important to state the end of it, they are approved on a case-by-case basis. This is approved for this particular shed. We do not intend it to set a precedent for all historic structures.
So
I
we'll do
might
it
be
in
able
next
to,
nobody notices.
That's great.
this
What'd you
is,
say, Warren?
this is Warren again. Gail and I are going to be traveling over there. I can see if I can get another set of sample materials to bring to you middle to late next week, if there's somebody in the office that can approve them.
No, this is,
We have some.
this is our problem. We have-
The office is locked.
Oh,
Upstairs.
okay.
So,
Okay, all right.
they'll show up.
yeah,
We'll find
you
it.
did your part on that. Okay,
Yeah.
are we ready for a motion?
I would make a motion to accept the application as presented. What are our stipulations? Do we have any?
Finished, non-reflective, and that this was a case-by-case approval.
Very good. It has 2 stipulations.
And I will second.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Full one.
So stop by.
Absolutely, absolutely. Ron Buckley.
No, it's Derek.
It's me.
Okay, okay,
I'm representing them for the moment.
okay.
Tom is a contractor. And yeah.
Come on, let's sit down. Tell us what you do.
So yeah, my name is Derek Weldon. I've got a company, Weldon Enterprises. And I do general contracting, roof gutters, siding, windows, doors. He knows me well. And basically, we're looking to take that property. It's a liability, really. And it was north facing the road. You have a like kind of a slip and slide area that he tells me it turns into around, I don't know, let's see, November, December, all the way till March. And so he's had some people slip. Luckily, there's nobody been getting injured. So our idea was to do a low voltage heat cable and do a gutter and downspout and then hide the downspouts underneath, running about 10 inches, 12 inches under the ground, and then daylighting it out. Just with heated cables so that it actually keeps running through the winter. But as far as the gutters, there is no existing gutters on the building. So it never had gutters, never had downspouts, so that's the addition. That's what's gonna take place. And color matching is exactly what we're trying to do. So it follows the eave line, that fascia, and then it drops down with the posts. And then right at the end of the post is where it's going to drop down into the ground, and I'm going to run schedule 40, or the plan is to run schedule 44-inch underneath the ground and go around both sides of the building and daylight.
Okay. On this structure, do we want to see half round, or since it's a newer structure, we don't okay, so you can use conventional depth, you can use commercial size or residential size, that's up to you. You just want to paint it.
It's gonna match, yeah.
Yeah, and the downspouts the same way.
And actually, there was a lot of discussion about this application, only because it is on our pre-approved list that you can have gutters and downspouts without coming to us if they are, painted, match the buildings and et cetera. But this was extensive enough that we thought we better understand. Because this is a very, that's for individual houses, this one is a bigger project.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So,
We're still on page 83, book 2. Ended up on the right page, E. Gutters and downspouts are appropriate if painted to match the structure.
Yeah.
Avoid altering your exterior trim, so you're not gonna change that addition more than the.
no changes, just addition.
So just E, just E, is that?
Yeah, that's E and E.
Okay. All right. Okay. For committee, I'm going to put that this condition of the existing improvements is a hazard to public health and safety. Since they have had falls.
Yes.
So it's okay. All right. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion to approve with the citing stated.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Brian, keep going. 906 Griffith.
Nice to meet you. How are you? So we did a renovation on that house about 20 years ago, and the original windows, or not original windows, but the windows that were in the house at the time were not replaced. They don't fit the hole that they're in. They were replaced before by the lady who owned the house prior to us. None of them block. There's inch gaps with foam in them so that we have some kind of air gap or air stoppage during the winter time. We just want to replace the windows from the inside, so they would look like the windows that were replaced or were put into the addition. They're paintable if you want to paint them, but we're gonna have them look like the windows that are in the addition. Because we're gonna change the color of the house sometime soon.
Are they wood or?
They're acrylic capstock, more durable than vinyl, more durable than wood. They're gonna last my lifetime and the next lifetime of the owner.
What brand are they? Are they Marvin's?
Their lifetime, they are marked.
Okay, it's like.
What is that? I mean,
It's
this
like.
is mine, just not knowing. I mean,
I'm new to it too. Acrylic capstock is plastic strewn through these strings, and I didn't understand the process, but I had a piece of it in my house that you could not bend, you could not break it. He's had a piece stuck in water for over, or the company has had a piece stuck in water for over 20 years. The piece underneath of the water is the same as the piece above the water,
And you can pay, you said.
and you can paint it, yes.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just not vinyl. It's got some, I don't know if it's got.
Fibers isn't vinyl.
But it's their answer to Anderson's wood deck, or whatever that is.
It's like a fiberglass.
Okay, then explain to me, because I don't, what part of what is gonna show on the outside?
Basically just the mullions and the side thing.
So are you just replacing the sashes basically?
The sashes are on the inside of the trim, so all that stuff would pull out and a new window would be stuck into the.
So the frame doesn't change at all?
The outside, there's the blue trim on the outside unless it's rotten, they get into it. The blue trim, the 1x4 will not be touched at all.
Okay, so the whole frame is not touched, and so something in this said bronze.
That's just the color that they have on it. It's the same color that was approved for the addition that we did 20 years ago or so.
The actual frame is being changed though.
On the
Not the
inside,
trim, but the.
on the inside.
The
The blue
inside.
1x4 trim on the outside. A lot of it was replaced when we did
It's a full window, it's a replacement window.
so they're gonna take everything out and just slide a new window into the.
Okay, but we don't see anything bronze from the outside.
Or you'll see the
So if the color of
mullions.
Italians, yeah.
Mullions would be wood. I think the bronze is the trim in between glass. Isn't that correct?
the, could
The
be,
bronze
Oh,
color
this
is,
is gonna be bronze?
it's got a window, a window frame and it's gonna bronze is what they call it, but it's more like a blackish color.
But is that?
oh, okay, that's the brown, that's the color.
The crossbars will be the same color, yes. But they,
Dark brown.
Yeah.
So the whole, what you would see that is not the casing or the exterior casing, that would be the new material that would be a bronze color.
the casing, the windows slide up and down and will be replaced.
Right. So that would be bronze.
Yes. But
The trim.
it's not bronze, it's really more like,
Bronze
I would
is
say the
the
color
color.
of the wood.
What?
Bronze is the color, it's just a brown. It's a
Yeah,
dark brown.
brown.
It's not shiny.
It's not shiny, it's not.
It looks
a
more like this
Okay,
tabletop.
because
It's not a shiny or copper
It's
color.
not,
It looks like a tabletop.
that's, when I read bronze, I
Yeah.
thought, if, you can polish bronze, make it nice and shiny.
It's not shiny. It matches the windows that were in the edition that we put on years ago. And I think even back then, I think Marvin called that finished bronze, but I can't recall.
Because these look like wood frame windows. I mean, they look like wooden sashes and et cetera, and we do want to sort of.
Are these gonna be simulated divided lights?
They look just like
Excuse me?
that.
Simulated
They are
divided
between
lights?
glass, yes.
No, I mean
The lights.
simulated, meaning there's a filler between the mullions, in between the glass.
Yes, there's a filler between that.
Yeah, so you can't see through between the two mullions. So if you're looking, you can't see a space.
No,
Okay. So it looks like it's a solid piece.
Solid.
Are these 2/2s or are they double hungs?
they're double hung.
So they won't have this line.
They will, it'll be in between the glass.
Okay, so essentially you've got a 2/2 appearance.
Yeah,
It's gonna look just like the ones that are there.
It's okay, all right. No, I'm just, I read the spec, I didn't understand.
The bronze jumped out. It's not gonna be bronze, it's gonna be dark oak.
We're gonna put bronze windows?
No bronze.
No bronze.
The only one-
First middle shingles, no.
The only one gold,
Yeah.
because we're
Gold,
gold.
yes, we're gold town.
So we're still,
Just finished my draft, which is a problem.
okay, anybody got anything?
Okay, what is it, whatever we have for now.
And I have the time.
Page 70, to section 6, page 70. That's what we're at. And, one of the things I wrote in my book, under H, this is actually section 6, which is windows, doors, and other openings, but it's H. When replacing windows, doors necessary on a historic structure, because this is a contributing structure, this is a historic structure. It says match the original design, and then it says use the same material as is used historically. And I wrote a note on mine that says one of the additions we want to make to these guidelines is that, and I called it Fibrex, but that a fiber material that imitates wood, not a vinyl.
Yeah.
But a fiber material that imitates wood could be used, and and there's some place under materials that says new materials may be considered. So I would say we're on H. The original design is being matched, and H1, we're preserving the original outs or the outsides as it was. It's not a new opening. And nothing's changing about its trim. But then on page 81, in new building materials, it's D, and it says newer synthetic materials may be considered if they appear similar in character and detailing to the traditional building materials. And D1, newer materials must have a demonstrated durability in this climate.
We go back to page 70, H6, match the number and size of divided lights and panels.
Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else got anything? Right, can I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the window replacements with the siding stadium.
Can I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's good.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good night.
Yes. Right.
Bye.
Right. This will be on.
Oh, yeah. Do that. Thank you.
That's all of those. Then we have the Strauss Park again. Are you waiting for something? Okay.
Are
Are you
you,
just hanging out with us?
yeah, it's a slow news night, so I'm just.
Oh, okay.
Are you like a reporter or something? No, no, just a resident.
Oh,
Nice.
just came to inform. Would you like to introduce yourself so we can say hello?
Yeah, I was here about 2 meetings ago. My name's Bruce. Lived in Georgetown about 3 years now, from Georgetown County originally. So yeah, just, I'm hoping to get more involved here. Hoping to retire in about 1.5 to 2 years is my goal. And then, hopefully get more involved with some local stuff. And so for now, just kind of dipping my toes in the water. That's all.
Yeah. Welcome.
Absolutely.
We will help you.
Careful what you wish for.
We got a lot of water.
Yeah, well, next step is over your head.
In a lot of ways.
Yes, me too. Thanks, Hamilton.
You all have a copy of the
Yes.
end of July report. Bottom line is we're on track with getting phase 3A, which is all the underground, all the prep work done. Concrete for the foundations is coming tomorrow. The electrician's coming back to put bonding wires and hopefully anchor bolts in the foundation holes for the light poles. We're hoping that sometime next week we might get those poured. We're shooting for Tuesday for these. And then the next step, we started down the road for the, building the fire pit. We've ordered the material from the fabricator. I talked to him today. I'm probably gonna make a trip down to his factory sometime next week, and I may be able to pick up the control box so we can fit it in the concrete. The wall. Artistic log, they're down in, no, they're west, not as far as Grand Junction, but Gypsies. They've done a lot of the stuff up in the Vale, Beaver Creek area for the commercial type stuff. Budget wise, we're in good shape, I think, on both budgets. We're still waiting to hear back from CDOT on the grant.
Right.
Your word?
Yes.
We'll see how far we can get.
Don't worry, Cindy.
It's only money, we'll figure it out.
I know.
You've got all kinds of money for the road, borrow some of that.
Turn off the tape.
So if there's anybody has any questions, and then the next thing is, on where we are, I'd be happy to answer those. Come over and poke around, things are starting to, come together. We're gonna pour the floor for the concession area and the steps up into the storage area, and then the 3 foundations for the fire pit area.
When's that?
Tomorrow. I'm supposed to arrive at 10 o'clock. And it's all gonna be the brown, color concrete. Oh, we are gonna put gold flexi. I did some looking into the stone for veneer stone. And I have been able to locate from 2 different suppliers, stone, and you see a selection. These 2 on this end and 1 on the far end are all, like a Dakota moss rock. Yeah, these 3 are they're all from the same place, they're all the same stuff. It's a moss rock. You can get it with the moss on it, or you can get the back of the rock that probably came out of the ground that's got the other colors. It's not as dense as I would like. It seems to be a soft material. The other 3, these are from Brighton, Monarch Stone. You can all play with those and look at them. This one actually broke in half, the other half, the pieces in my car on the way back, just from the other sitting on top of it. I'd be concerned that that's a really soft sandstone. And down in the park, we're likely to have all kinds of things going on.
But they're on a wall, right?
Yeah, they'll be connected to a wall. They'll be all mortared on with mortar. These 3 are from Lyons. The gray one, I think it's called ptarmigan. And it actually comes from Albert Fry, one of their quarries, the Walford quarry, which I think is the one down Idaho.
Yeah.
That's where they get it from. But, then they haul all the way up to Lyons and they cut it up into, and then they all the way right down here. That's gonna be mostly grayish tones. Doctor, and that photograph there is a pretty good representation of what it would look like. The other one is a moss rock similar to these. I mean, it'll be more brown tones, but it comes out of Wyoming and it is much more dense.
That one.
The one in the middle. And this one is another granite based, that is a lot more, it's gonna be more gray, some browns. Do you guys have a preference?
How much they cost?
They're all about $10 a square foot, $9 to $10 a square foot.
I like the
So-
ones with moss, but if you think of breakage and wear.
Well, I don't think so. If you look at, you pick up the one that was down there, pick up the one in the middle there.
That one's very heavy.
Yeah, I'll pick up this one here, the moss rock that's in the middle. It's not light. It's
Yeah, it's heavy.
it's a lot more dense.
Which one do you like, Bob?
I like moss, because it's gonna have a lot of brown tones in it, and, Kevin, over hotel, he voted for the moss. One, so.
I like the moss, but if you think there's a better reason to have another one, you know.
Those three from Lions are all about the same price, and and they're available.
The gray one sort of matches silver plum granite, which is what you see on a number of the walls.
This one.
Yeah, it's not gonna be all gray, there's a bunch of light stuff.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, that's
but
right.
if you.
It's gonna probably be darker. I mean, when I looked at it up there, it definitely is predominantly.
I kind of prefer it to not all be brown, you know.
Well, the corner bench is brown.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we could also mix it.
Sure.
If you drive down Middle Street, the wall that comes along to my house is all pieces of silver plum granite, which is very close to the.
Yeah, the gray that's a local.
Yeah.
That's as
That's,
local as it's gonna
I went up to the quarry
Yeah.
and stole out of the silver plum quarry enough to do it, not.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that's the color you would get. I mean, if you look at the Hamel House Trends, the one in front of
Koski's.
Koski's, that's common code for us because it's local color.
Yeah,
Or moss.
I mean, I like it because it's granite and it'll be,
Yeah,
it should hold up really well.
yeah.
I'm not really particular with it, other than I don't like the Samsung stuff. It's good.
Yeah.
They can be too soft.
Oh, you mean those two outside pieces?
Yeah.
Yeah. That one's just kind of light.
Just.
Yeah.
No, I'm.
And you can feel it on the back. I mean, it feels porous. With these or
Yeah.
smooth as
Yeah.
What we may do is get a few moss things to throw in. Give it
I mean, so I'm not kidding.
And our plan give you that for the price of transport?
Well, no, because the money in that
Is the,
is the cutting.
All right,
I think that's.
Otherwise you get riprap,
yeah,
which is,
no, I get that. But he has been really good at donating material to all kinds, to the town and to the nonprofits, as long as you pay for the transport. But it's gotta be cut.
well, I will make arrangements to get
Granite.
some of it down here so we can at least have enough to the fire pit. And we'll have to talk about whether we want to buy it all at once or wait till we get the grant and just buy enough.
Does it come already in the size pieces that we're gonna use?
It comes in different size pieces, but they'll all be small.
If we have stuff we're gonna use later and it's stacked around, will it disappear?
I don't think so.
Just,
We can lock it up.
Mark's got a shed. Yeah, I got a shed.
Yeah. Mark's got a small shed.
I think that, Bob, what you have done is show that, and yes, I hope the money comes through and I worry about it, sure.
Well, they're not supposed to start looking at it until next week, according to their schedule.
They can get it done.
You're right, you're 5 days.
Yeah, well, no, it's, yeah. Not real comfortable.
Okay, so do we need to discuss anything else then?
We should probably put in the notes that, the, Ptarmigan granite is the preferred stone.
Okay.
That way when people start coming, oh, it'd be purple. They're not like you, that should have been. But I think we should mix, we can mix some moss and moss like it. Pick up the brown colors in the park as well. So,
Yeah,
get some of each.
you use buttermilk. And buttermilk and moss, and you put it in the blender,
Oh, yeah.
and you can like spray it on.
And it grows. So we can have the green, it'll match the thing down there.
Well, it'll grow with the shady spots and stuff.
person to do that.
I can do that, okay? I have the ability.
Okay, well, is that, are we done with that?
Yes. Yes.
Do you want to talk about 1036 Grove Street?
Yeah, I just took the initiative to, since it's been on our list, I printed out what we approved. I went down, walked around, took some pictures, and I was really quite surprised. There's a whole lot of stuff that we approved that's not there. A couple of things that absolutely have to be fixed, that need to obviously paint the place.
Yeah.
And the landscaping needs to be completed. They need to do put dark sky compliant lights in, because they're definitely not.
Yeah.
Other than that, if they had come to us with what they built, my take is we probably would have approved it.
The changes.
Yeah,
I don't think we would ever have approved that garage door.
Yeah. What did we approve?
We approved a corrugated steel thing for garage door.
yeah, what they've got is a typical raised panel.
And it was going to, it's going to be corrugated, it was going to sort of rust into the color of
Yeah.
the building. And the color of the building was going to blend more with the color of the brick structure. So that you had something that didn't look, because that white garage door just leaps out onto the structure.
Which, I mean, they haven't painted anything, so maybe premature.
I don't think
Yeah.
that's in paint.
Hmm?
I don't think it's
Well, I can't say the way it is.
There's some color swatches on the backside, I noticed.
Hmm?
There's some color
Yeah, I
swatches.
think that's some dark colors.
Yeah, I noticed that today or yesterday.
And even the windows to me look unfinished too.
Yeah, he doesn't have the trim level.
Yeah.
But they do have a certificate of occupancy.
Yeah.
Was that?
Say it was issued by Safe Built.
This is before my time.
Yeah, I didn't even realize this was so weird.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's totally, what they built is totally different than what was approved.
Yeah, they just kind of went and did whatever.
So we should tell them to tear it down, so.
That's right. The bulldozer will leave it in the way.
All right, I wanna,
I think they need stern talking to. I think we should have a list of all the things that are not, that are different and.
It's
Go talk
all
to
there.
them and say, this is unacceptable. And then we pick our battle on when we want them to have to change the garage door being probably number one on your list. And the lights, which we're not.
Yeah, the lights are non-negotiable.
And the paint to make everything blend in.
Yeah.
Even the furniture intake, the pipes, all of the vents.
Yeah.
Are still.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who ran their exhaust pipe furnace, but it's like,
Yeah.
right, it looks terrible.
I mean, it's like 12 feet long. It's
Well,
ridiculous.
consider how long they're still working on the place, so consider how long it's been.
So
There was a lot of issues with building that place.
Yeah.
That's why I chose to get out.
Like I said, I didn't even realize it was done.
Okay, so Mark is not,
So how do we proceed with this? Do we,
I'd send that list to them and say, if it's,
with the highlights?
yeah, come in and talk to us.
you need to come
Oh, yeah, I mean, we
talk.
could send them a copy of this, of these two drawing sheets, 3 and 4, and the list that relates all the circles.
Say that, say, you know.
So who is actually working now? Are they aware of the RC and the actual thing? Oh, okay. So you're not naming names, I guess, but,
Well, Kevin Buckley was the contractor.
okay.
And
So,
it was just a-
so what we want is when there are changes, let us know. It doesn't have to be a big deal, it doesn't cost anything, but we need to.
No, we send this and say,
Oh, yeah, but we're not
and
trying to.
we
make
expect
it
to
not-
see you. It's
Yeah.
Not,
Yeah.
you know, I mean,
You don't just change things.
we are measuredly polite.
They had budget concerns and that's where it started turning corners, so.
Yeah, yeah.
But you need to come to us.
And Lindsay came to me and said, can you help me do a historic tax credit? And I said, I would, you know, because that kind of thing could be discussed for this because of the main structure. And what I asked, I said, Lindsay, if you can supply a scope of work, because it can't apply for anything without a scope of work.
Yeah.
And she said, well, you'd have to talk to my contractor about that.
Mhm.
And I said, no, I'm not gonna talk to your contractor.
Yeah.
If you can supply me
It's
with
your
a
house.
scope of work, I'm not gonna create a scope of work.
Yeah.
You know, you gotta supply me the scope of work. And I know it disappointed her, because, she didn't understand what I was asking for. She said, well, I don't know.
Well,
So
she
that's why.
needed to be documenting, you know, all along,
That's
and
right.
have pictures and.
And she says she's got a ton of pictures, and so she probably does have a
Then she
ton of
needs to find
pictures.
somebody that knows what scope of work means.
And put it together as a scope of work,
Yeah.
but,
Is it too late to do all that at this point?
it's not, but I'm
She's
not
got
going
a
to attempt it.
ton of
I'm not gonna essentially do it,
No.
because there's too much on the plate, and that's not,
That's not your,
that's
that's
not
not our
our
responsibility.
responsibility. Our responsibility is to say, this is what you need to hand to us in order to qualify for a historic tract.
We have samples downstairs.
Yes, yeah, I mean, you have the example of Lumina's place, which makes it very, very clear what needs to come. But, so I think that this should be sent, so, you know, if Rick will.
I don't have that document that you guys have.
Put together a sternly worded.
Okay, so I will send this and let them know that, we expect him to come back to DRC with, explanations and for us to talk to him.
Yeah,
He's got some explaining
Yeah,
to
he
do.
got some explaining to do. Yes.
If Jennifer has this grid dropped off, the master report today.
Okay. You wanna keep yours in?
No, that's okay. All right, we're done with that?
yeah. and-
Thank you for the
Excel.
Yeah, Excel update.
Excel update, well, the update is that, yes,
Yeah.
I know. And as far as the DRC is concerned, you know, the town has not officially made any decisions. We're obviously in negotiations with Excel on all kinds of issues. The one that's coming up is the ownership of the land ownership and powerhouse ownership. And I thought it might interest the members, though, and I'm gonna make a couple of these, I'm gonna hand one of those down to Sean, and if you guys would share one. And, well, you can have one because Bob and Betsy have been sitting on these committees. What's interesting, and I think most people don't know, that's what the town of Georgetown owns. Out up towards the reservoir, you see on the bottom where their Four Bay Reservoir is. And the large piece that comes into the forebay that is not owned by the town of Georgetown is owned by Clear Creek County Open Space. So Excel is entirely surrounded by town public lands. And, you know, that's the big one, is Silverdale up the top, but it is entirely surrounded by town public lands. So, there is another little sheet that will show you what Excel owns, which is sort of interesting. Fun to look at. Thank you so much for doing that. So you can understand what the concern is, and as far as this commission being the body that is the certified local government representative, I think it's important that the DRC know that you know, that the town is involved with trying to secure the future in some manner and form of those lands. You see the strip that goes up the creek is, of course, some mill sites that Excel owns. It is also the site of the Rutherford Trail. It is also the site of the historic Chicago Creek Wagon Road. And then the piece that they own around the dam. It's interesting to note they don't own the whole thing, but all of those mining claims that are next to it are either ours, and the ones that aren't ours belong to historic Georgetown. So you have that whole area.
So Excel really doesn't own that much.
Excel really doesn't own that much.
So should we ask Excel to come from this committee?
No, I don't think that that's the way it's gonna fly. I think that we are represented in the meetings that the town is having, and the first one of those will be this next week. And actually, it's Public Service Company who owns this. Excel bought Public Service, but they did not dissolve Public Service Company as a company. So Public Service Company actually is the landowner in question. Not that they can make, you know, the decision will be Excel's, but that's where the negotiation will go. And partially because, of course, Silverdale is an old mining camp that was essentially part of our whole history. The landmark district, of which we are the certified government, I think I told you that, their boundary runs right across the dam. So virtually all of the lower stuff is in the landmark district. And then, so I just wanted you updated on, that's the current issue under discussion. That will involve eventually the little square down in town that is the powerhouse. And yes, our goal is to secure for someone, not yet, the powerhouse, and to assure the future of an energy museum. Not so easy because
Operating or non-operating?
what?
Operating or non-operating?
We mean the powerhouse?
Yes.
No, the powerhouse will not operate because the fence stop will not essentially be, that would require either replacing or repairing the dam. And I don't think we're necessarily going to.
Kind of done our due diligence on.
Yeah, well, except
Whether
there's no
that's feasible.
formal decision on
No,
it. Yeah, we're not, that feasibility is not looking good.
So I know that was one discussion we had.
Yes, it is one of the discussions had, but we have looked at it and for a number of kinds of reasons. You know, it's, we've discovered a lot about dams, and a fair amount about powerhouses. But it looks like more of a bite, and it's not something that in today's world can even break even.
Yeah.
and one thing I'd like to an update that would be of interest to this group in particular is in discussions with the Colorado State dam people.
Yeah, the Division of Water Resources.
Yeah, they have a lot of records going back to way back in time, back in the 1800s. And I asked them, could they provide, whatever is not privileged to us, and they're gonna do that. I got confirmation back from,
Nice.
yeah, so they've got someone that's gonna look into pulling that stuff and sending it up here, so that could be a bunch of interesting information.
Yeah, and what we're ending up doing is also, through this process, gathering a lot of resources that hopefully will also be able to be used in the museum.
Right.
And it turns out that we're gathering a ton of stuff that has that kind of potential use. The history written by the cultural resource firm in the consultation document that they submitted to the Federal Energy Commission, was someplace between awful and awful. Well, I didn't know that we were a gold town somehow.
For cranes too.
Oh, what are cranes?
Well, they mentioned cranes more than they do.
They're whooping
Yeah.
cranes more than they do anything else, but anyway, the history piece itself was very interesting. The mining boom, the towns in this valley, Empire and Silver Palm and Idaho Springs, not a mention of church.
Yeah.
Not a mention of what? Georgetown.
Yeah.
And the National Historic Landmark suddenly became the Georgetown Historic District. Ooh. So yes, there will be some discussion about the fact that we treat cultural resources. And that's sort of in our failure. But I did think and if you have questions. The other subject is streetscape. I think we fairly immediately, I'm not getting into the issue of the fact that you destroyed drainage down North Street. But it did, and that's not a happy thing. The improvements on 8th Street did negatively impact the drainage down North Street.
Well, I have questions, because I saw the video. The first the questions immediately that I thought of was, what would that have been like if we did not have the sidewalks in?
What you did was tilt the back of the pan back towards 8th Street, so it could accept from 8th Street towards the front. But the vast amount of water coming down is not coming from 8th Street, it's coming down Rose Street. So by tilting the back of the pan down, it means as the water comes down, now it doesn't continue to shoot down Rose Street, it puddles into 8th Street.
Okay, so then the second question is, how long did it take before the water subsided then?
That video that I took, that was like a 10-minute storm at the
Right.
most. It
Right.
hailed and then it rained, but
Right.
it was very short. And the water comes up because it keeps coming from downhill. And I don't know, it's another 10 minutes before it's back down to not all the way across the street and just running on down.
And I know that was an extreme storm.
Oh, stop.
We have,
Well, I mean,
Stop. We've had
we have-
years of extreme
Well, I mean,
storms
more than a
that have
normal
not
rain.
stopped.
Is what I mean.
does every
Oh,
summer.
we have them all the time,
Yeah.
and we've had them for years. And that street has run for years and it has not backed into.
I haven't seen it do that before. So it wasn't, well, the curbs didn't stop it because the problem was that used to just be a river all the way down Rose Street. It was meant to be, and then it goes down to the
And the
creek.
minute you back it off,
And so now it's.
So what happened is it
spread out.
kind of went
It
inside.
got to that intersection and it was flat enough that the water just all spread out. And at the very end, I did try to pan down so you could see how much less water was flowing past the intersection. It's all the way across the street, this deep in front of my house. And it gets to that intersection and then it just spread out everywhere. And some continued on, but most of it did not. It was.
and in previous hard rains, and we certainly have had them, We had rains that dumped into our visitor center last year that were, half hours worth of just pounding rain. Yes, there's a lot of water, and it's moving all the way down the street. That's,
Well, it was over that sidewalk, even down to Vicky's house. It was over the sidewalk, so it was over the curb.
and so now it gets spread right in that spot. I mean, we have a similar problem sort of on Fifth Street, because that pan was never, when the rest of the road was done, it was done down to the pan on one side and down from the pan on the other side, and so the pan doesn't quite operate correctly, but the whole streetscape issue, I don't know how to, I don't know that we're in the position to write a streetscape guidelines, but if
The streetscape and there's
drainage.
drainage and roads,
Yeah,
the technical part of it would
this
be ours.
does, I know. I just, I had to bring up that we're doing things to streets that are going to be hard to fix, and so we really do need some guidelines on the streets. We're filling potholes on dirt streets with patches of fillings that then are gonna harden and are gonna make it very difficult to grade that road, which is the way you need to get.
But we're not currently doing that.
Well, we've just done too long.
On Diddle Street?
Yeah.
Who did that?
Your road bridge,
They hardened it?
they put it in, it's at the end of the bridge, and they would tell you it has to be there because it's,
Oh, at the end of Richard?
But we have to have some sort of sense of guidelines. We also have now some extra wide sidewalks on side streets that have never had sidewalk. The streetscape matters to what the town looks like. It sets their tone. And I don't know, my question is, how do we go about getting streetscape guidelines? I like Denver's in many respects, but they're not us.
No, but it's important.
Yes,
It
it
can
is.
tell you it can tell you what would be included in that. But I think before you can even start, you really need to have a master plan for drainage. Because that's gonna dictate a lot. It's kind of like,
Well, we have several of those. I think Rick has a few of them in his office, actually, that people have done them.
I don't know. Certainly wouldn't be anything I would be knowledgeable on, but I mean, I would think that Craig or somebody that, civil engineer could take a look at that, but, maybe it's something that put on the list that it becomes a project to look at that kind of infrastructure on a global basis.
Because in the past, we have done surveys of what the historic streets look like as far as where were sidewalks, where weren't sidewalks, those kinds of things.
See, that would need to be married with whatever you're gonna do for road improvements.
So Cindy, if you could conceptualize the ideal situation going forward and who would do this work?
I would find a landscape architect who would be assigned to do a streetscape study, because that's the kind of a firm that, I mean, I don't even know who I'd ask, but the kind of a firm that does large landscape planning, not planning your park, but large whole landscape.
And has,
The folks who are working on the master plan for the Silver Mountain Park, are the landscape architects for the Floyd Hill project. And therefore could do something like this. But I think other firms could too. But I think you're into large landscape architecture firms that have broad picture. And I don't know that Brent's still listening, but I think he might have some ideas who could do that too.
What does something like that cost?
I have no idea. And that's that, but if we're empowered to ask that question to a couple of folks, I think maybe we should ask.
My problem is I kind of worry about the end result. what they're gonna come up with. Is it gonna be something like Strauss Burg? These guys
That
are
is
bringing in.
expensive.
No, because they have us.
I think we need to be a collaborative effort.
They have us. And what happened there is that the planner, you know, you ask somebody to make a plan and you do not participate in the process. And, even on Floyd Hill, we're finding there are things that we can change.
Yeah. Oh, well, there we go.
Never mind. Okay,
Right, so can we put out some feelers and ask some folks what?
Sure, I wrote it down. It always makes me a little cringe, you know, when I hear things like this, because our budget is so small, and I've got things lined up for next year that it's gonna already consume our budget of more pans and to actually resurface Maine, you know, the finishing Maine, that we're only doing the pans right now, so we have not even addressed the lower end, not the upper end of Maine. That's gonna be probably 700,000 alone, just that. So that's gonna consume the budget. So when I think of a master plan, those could be 50,000, a master drainage plan. I can look into it, but a guideline, a streetscape guideline, that's a smaller scope, that may not be that significant. We would look to see if we can add that to our road and bridge budget. So I have to do some research to find that, and I'll bring it back to you.
But I'm happy to also do some research in the kind of firms that I know do that, because representing county with CDOT means that I get to sit around with a lot of people who do roads.
So is there a plan like now to do Main Street, and then you have sort of a step by step, obviously you can't just do the whole town all at once, is there, but like a plan laid out on how it's gonna go?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a written plan, but we discussed with the priors on how we're moving this direction. We are planning to pave Main Street from 14th all the way to the end would be Skyline. That would be the whole area. However, the paving is way more cost effective than it is to put pans in. Concrete pans are the most expensive part. So we want to finish, because we had to stop at Sunburst, and we're not able, we ran out of money to do the rest of it. So we want to continue to do that.
So basically, we need a drainage plan for the immediate plans, that what we're doing doesn't have a negative effect. So as long as what happens on Main Street does not have adverse effects on drainage, and then.
Well, we're just not throwing something in though. I mean,
Oh, I understand.
Greg's been involved in it, telling us how the engineering should go. And then he's been needing to make sure ESI, when we do the survey and everything, exactly where it should go. So it's not, we're just saying throw this in.
But I don't see them ever grading a street down.
I understand that you and I have talked about that many times.
Yes.
And that will be something that we will begin to address that. But at this point, it's like, we've got
Particularly
to
out here.
what's that?
Particularly in this
Yes, I
section more
understand.
than the meadows, because. the
Right, but
meadows-
our budget right now is so limited that we're trying to, you know, it's sad. I mean, I'm in this situation, I inherited a lot of mess. And so it's like, we've got to leave, Main Street is by far the worst in the town.
it's a lot of traffic.
And it gets a lot of traffic, and they are constantly trying to patch potholes, but those are just temporary fixes, you know, they're not gonna solve it, so, but part of it's the drainage on that area. And so that area, the mill site, all that stuff is where we're trying to attack, because it hasn't been addressed in a long time, and it's expensive.
So what I'm hearing, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm hearing that we're going ahead with Main Street without having an overall plan. In other words, we're gonna use the money for next year, the 700,000, to do this, but it's not integrated into an overall plan.
I mean, I can't argue that, to say that it's not, this has been something that has been wanting to be done for a long time, and Craig's been involved in it. But to say, like, here's our master plan to show, I mean, I've seen I forgot his name, Bob Orsatti. I've seen his stuff, however, there's a lot of stuff on it that I think others would, question of his applications.
Yeah.
And I was one of them. In fact, I was really surprised that he never even mentioned that mill site area that has the problems, never mentioned that that's in the floodway.
In the floodplain?
Floodway, not floodplain.
Oh, floodway.
The worst case scenario.
Oh, yeah.
So,
right
It was never, I'm sounding a little more emotional about it,
Yeah,
but it's
okay.
really frustrating. You know, when I look at these things and then I got other engineers to look at the same thing and they're like, no. So we had a document that we were kind of going by as a master to do things, but then it's like, I can't believe that we were using that as a master. So that's kind of where we're at.
We need about 3 separate drainage plans, which sounds silly, but it's not if you think about the town. This,
Yes.
there and there drains into a creek we've got there.
Okay,
And it really has little to nothing to do with what's happening in the mill site. The mill site is doing its own.
and then we have,
We should have had a video.
yeah.
Doesn't matter, this is the more done file. But, okay, well,
Okay,
then
so I would like to make another comment. I would like to preface it by saying, I have never discussed this with Cindy. So I've been looking at this from like, okay, I'm just wondering how this process works. So if we actually knew how much it would cost to get some experts in here to have a coordinated, integrated plan, would there be a consideration of not doing the 700,000 next year in order to do that plan first?
I'd say no.
Right?
If you live that way. Yeah.
It's so bad.
It's bad. It's just.
So we have like an emergency.
I would say, right now, what we're discussing right now is something that should be considered and moved as a priority. However, to push back on what we planned, it's gonna be like, it's really hard.
Costs more.
Yeah, I mean, it's only gonna get worse. That's why we put the pans in order to direct it into the culverts where it wasn't directed in that. Now they're actually being directed to culverts. So it's not running behind John Jennings' home anymore. So we do have a plan, but we're doing it in small segments so that it's manageable.
So let me ask this question. Just thinking in terms of, I'm only coming at this from like an overall consultant, kind of thing. So if we spend the 700,000 and we do what you suggested, which I'm hearing is an absolute emergency and soon, absolutely, and you have got the money allocated for that, and that's a big deal. I understand that.
Because then that's Cindy's.
But all I want to ask is, is it possible for you to spend, you representing the community, not you, Rick, spend the 700,000 and do this and have this in the future not be able to work relative to an overall plan?
What we're doing now, are you saying could it conflict with the overall plan?
Yes.
No, not at all.
Not at that end.
Yeah.
Not at that end of town, that's what I say.
You guys right here are concerned about downtown.
Yeah,
This is down, down.
Yeah,
the other
yeah,
end.
no, yeah.
It's like you got
drainage should come in 3 planes.
I agree, and I like that.
Yeah.
I can, for me to think that doing an overall master plan is exhausting,
Yeah.
because that concept of how complex that's gonna
Right.
But if we did it in segments, like we're talking about, I think we can do that and say, the downtown, this area of historic district, we can do a study, yeah, and we can, then that becomes the master for that area of how we're gonna look at it. I think that's little bites.
I think that's the only way really we can do it.
I'm on that.
Plan is distinctly different because the
Yes.
drainage is
Yes.
distinctly.
The drainage is different, the streetscapes are different, so it makes sense to treat,
Yeah,
this is the historic, which is, basically our.
and it's affordable, we could do that.
And then, because actually it is up to 11th. I mean, 11th is a real boundary as far as even the drainage is
Mhm.
concerned.
And then,
Yeah, it's all different.
and then the things that you guys don't hear is where I get bombarded by the sloped streets that feel like downtown always gets everything, and their roads are terrible. Skyline, we have been working on Skyline all summer long to try to fix the issues there. It's bad. And I mean, even in the winter, it was bad. We had, the main was frozen. So I hear you. However, I'm just letting you know, we have to do it so that the public understands that we're gonna be doing these in segments, and it's not just about downtown, it's about everyone, but we're gonna do it in bite size.
But I also hear you saying that you're open to an integrated plan.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, but I see it in.
Yeah, it's gotta be each other.
But it happens in segments.
Yeah, I mean, our drainage plan ultimately goes to the creek. That's where we're trying to get everything funneled to the creek.
Yes, but we have 2 different creeks in this end, and we have like different ways to funnel.
Yeah, right,
Than you do when you get past the other street.
right.
Because that's where we no longer have that.
I would like to say, but I did not send that video to you, it was like, oh my God, what's going on? I knew we were gonna have this discussion, so I just wanted you to see it.
No, and
It's not me.
I appreciate that,
Yeah.
because
And sometimes we have.
it's the same situation that the mill site had. They were screaming, like, nobody cares. No administrator ever, for 50 years, has ever said they're gonna do anything. So last summer, when we had some significant rain events, I went out in the rain every time because I wanted to see how the water was flowing. And it's important that you capture that to see exactly, so when you send the video, it's like, that's great, because it's eyewitness to
Well, it
see
was
how the
a
water.
change, it was the change
So-
from what you call.
Well,
But
back to 8th Street, now that there's an issue, they just did the work. Can you bring them back in?
Well,
Correct.
see, I was thinking of that, of like, because we were so concerned that when they went into that pan, that it was gonna alter it.
It did.
And now that you're saying, and so that's the first time, and I will get on with them tomorrow and tell them,
I don't have a video of it
And it's
before,
the
doing
fact
what it
that
should,
she's
but it didn't do that.
actually.
no, I know, but you guys have history
Yeah.
of saying you've seen how it flowed, and now it's backing up. And, it's warranty, like, if this is a flaw,
It
if
is.
it's an
And let's
engineer's
talk to
flaw,
them,
then.
because we don't want the road street
So-
drainage to not work.
Did you send me the video? Okay,
Yeah.
so I will call ESI tomorrow.
And Rick, I would say I can understand, and I would say this to Mark, halfway in apologies, but yes, the major road projects have been in the historic zone. And they have been. And so it's perfectly understandable that the folks who lived in the mill site, the mill site itself was Silver Pond. It was a pond, so, and it historically was a beaver pond, so, they have every reason to say, because it's correct, you fix the downtown drainage and the downtown improvement, and, back in the 80s, and it really does run. Downtown runs out at this point, and it's not flooding Iceland Anderson anymore, or all the stores on the south side. And then the next thing we really fixed was the drainage going down Rose Street from 7th to 11th. And it really got fixed. Tower Street got screwed up. Someday it will have to get fixed straight. But yeah, there's been a lot of work, including all of the gateway stuff has gone from 15th towards 6th. So I think that the folks in the meadows and the folks in the mill sites have every right to say, come on here, group,
Correct.
You know, and so I'd like to see Argentine Street North done, and I'd like to see Main Street done, and that would begin to, and he wants 22nd Street done. And I would begin to connect it all together.
So Rick, do you?
Can I say something real quick first? I'm sorry. I just want to say this. I can't tell you how thankful I am of you guys. But, and it sounds weird, but road improvements is my priority this year. I mean, it is. It's like, that was the highest thing because it's been neglected for so long. And we're seeing improvements. I mean, it's like all bridges now are resurfaced. We haven't done that in years. I mean, there was holes in 11th Street. You can see it all the way through. So we are making progress, and I know we're still chipping at this, and it's gonna take years before we see. But I know what I'm saying, you're concerned, and I'm glad to hear that, because it needs to get done.
So Rick, my question would be, not having any clue about drainage and all the rest of all of this, is there anything that you need to prevent stepping into another debacle? In other words, you're the town administrator, but you're not like an expert in plumbing or whatever this is called. Are you getting enough help to be able to make these decisions?
Craig is supposed to be.
Well, Craig,
Yeah, Craig's our on-call engineer.
Is that working out?
In general.
I mean, yeah, I was just saying in general, I have other engineers.
Many of these people are. I just want to
I've not seen where we've got Craig's guidance and expertise to fail us so far.
So who failed us on whatever this thing was,
On 8th Street?
That was ESI.
Because ESI.
That was, no, yeah.
Because they said we have to do this immediately while we're out.
Yeah, and that one, and the reason why, if I explain it, when they took 8th Street, it was either gonna move it this way or move it this way, and they chose to move it towards Rose Street. Well, when they raised it like that, in order to get a 1-inch slope, or a fall, 1-inch fall.
Which is what Rose Street has.
I know, and so that's the bare minimum in order to move the water, that's why it's backing up, and then eventually it will subside, but it's taking longer. And so what they had to do is, in order to get the connection correct, they had to tear that out and then redo it in order to bring it to the new elevation of where that street is
I
at.
want to make sure you're protected from not having to tear stuff out.
No, because it would have to be, the other side of it would have to be raised in order to get it to go to the creek.
That's correct. And that
So
was-
it's like, think of it as a, you know,
that
a
was
crown.
the theory to begin with. When Rose Street was done, the determination on 8th Street was that the creek was right in the back of it, and like 7th Street, we could run it right directly to the creek, and the tilt would be the other direction. But the minute you tilt to Rose Street, which to me sometimes makes no sense, because your creek is right there.
I know, but it's a crown.
Yeah.
So 8th Street is like this, and so you can go, right down the middle of it, but it creates funky drainage problems down the middle. So they decided to move it towards Rose Street, 3/4 of it. They didn't do the whole thing because it would be too much of a elevation increase towards the back. So that's why they made the cut 3/4 the way down the street.
You could have graded the street to make the 1% work, but that's neither here nor there because it's not good luck.
Yeah.
You could have made the 1% going back work.
I hear this great. I just want to make sure you're gonna be okay. This sounds very complicated.
Well, I am this way.
Everything
because I was the
that's my
project
favorite
manager.
topic.
I mean, I literally was the project manager, so I was out there every single day and I watched them cut that street down. And there's a creek that goes under that street. When they cut it down, you could literally pump the street. You could stand in the street and jump up and down and watch the land down the street from you go up and down. It was fascinating.
All right, so let me just ask this next question. Is there any, like, when you're gonna spend 700,000, is there any reason that you would come in here and say, here's what I'm planning to do?
Not unless I had sidewalks put in. Because if it's a street or pans, that's part of the street. That's not a design, approval from DRC.
Okay, and so we don't have any value added.
Really?
No, you do have value added, absolutely, but there's no.
There's a difference between keeping a non-paved street and a paved street is not a design consideration.
When you say non-paved street, what are you referring to?
I'm referring to are we planning to pave every
No.
street in town?
No,
But isn't that a design consideration, especially in the historic district?
I can see that if we were gonna be paving a non-paved road, then we'd be brought back
Oh,
here.
okay, that's what.
Main Street is already paved,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, so it may
It's
need
just-
to repair,
Right now, we're doing like for like.
like for like.
And so I can see what you're saying, but I wasn't thinking that. I was thinking at this point, we're just trying to take care of the issues to pave where it was already paved or repave it because of the potholes. The others can be graded. And I'm trying to not pave, non-paved roads. Or I've had a request from multiple people in Scotland to pave that. And I'm like, yeah, so that you can enjoy it for a month or two, and then in the winter, you can't get up your street.
Yeah.
Because it'll be frozen.
Yeah.
So people don't understand that.
Yeah.
They just are mad because gravel's piling up but it's because culverts are blocked. And so, or clogged, and so we're spending time undoing all the culverts in there. And that's what we've done all week in Skyline, is to do that. And all we can do is to see if that fixes it. And then if it doesn't, then we go back, keep going upstream to find out what's causing that, or dig the trench out so it follows that path. So, yes, this is very complicated.
Yeah, and I don't want you to misinterpret what I'm asking you. If it's $700,000 worth of work, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And I don't know, just having a chat with us, but okay, this is the next part. I just want you to know what's gonna happen. And what you got your ideas.
Where is that, like, something that's published, do you publish that kind of work that's being done, or?
I haven't, and if you think that would be something that would be,
Well, I mean, it's not so much that I feel like you have to come and okay everything.
No, I don't feel like
It should be
we're okay.
available, I guess, like what the schedule is or something.
I'm just,
Maybe at the beginning of summer, he said, these are projects.
here's our summer project.
Yeah.
And I think another thing is, part of my job right now is to help our road and bridge team become like that. And they've never, at least the current administration has not been like that. But trying to teach and train that you can't wait till November and expect a project. We have to have this plan early spring and lined up so that we see how it rains. It's like, we have to wait till we get a window and so it's hard, but you have to plan this really well. So I want planned priorities of what streets we're working on. Sure, we can get something like that, to show what the direction of what we're gonna be doing. It's not a problem. We haven't been there.
Yeah, well, we haven't.
Or even when it comes to, lack of budgeting, lack of planning for capital improvement projects. They've never done that before. They've never.
Road and Bridge has.
Correct.
Yeah.
Maybe in the past, but not in the current. They've never done that. So, but even when it comes to, some of the issues that we've had is they went ahead and signed for a backhoe. Now, there's only one person that can make that sign, that's me.
Yes.
And I had to call that company and say, hey, I understand you jumped the gun a little bit, but he has no authorization. That is not a contract that we will ever, honor. But because I had to take it to the board to get their approval, and my limit is $10,000. So that's as much as I can write, is a $10,000 check that exceeds that. I have to take it to the board for approval. But it's training and massaging, saying, hey, that's not, or getting a contractor to start working up on at the top of the hill. He had a contractor working up there without a contract. And so it's like, time out.
Is that great?
We'll get it worked out, except for there's some growing pains in this, because he's never been trained to think like that. Now, Ryan, on the other hand, Ryan's exceptional. Ryan does everything according to by the book, and it's been amazing to see those things. But I'm not saying that one's bad and one's the other, it's just one's not trained like that yet, and he's getting there. And he's doing a great job, but Ryan is there. Ryan does understand how to manage, and his team.
Ryan's a manager.
He is, even when it comes to submitting his budget, he's always the first one to submit his
He
budget.
thinks like over a year ahead of time.
Yes.
That's when you gotta get.
Yes, yeah, exactly, so, I mean, like our water and wastewater, he's already purchased backup parts when that plane goes out. So if we can get to that, to the road bridge, like, hey, I know what's gonna happen, I know which culverts I'm gonna be replacing, which manholes I'm gonna be replacing, we're just not there.
So Rich, I'm not suggesting that you would be going to DRC for any form of approval on anything. But this conversation's good, it's good for us to know. And, you know, you can blow off every idea anybody comes up with.
No, I like the
Point
second
is,
idea, I think that's
Exchange, I
great.
think, is valuable, because there's historic information, you know, Cindy's talking about the creek and it can flow in there, I mean, I wouldn't have the slightest clue about that,
Yeah.
but she does.
Yeah.
And other people in the room.
And Cindy talks to me every day on this. She mentors me. I can only get so far before she ropes me back.
But the other thing is, if we get the biggest grant out there, the request at the moment, we get to do 15 of the Argentine Street from 15th to 22nd.
Yeah.
That is a $2 million project, is what it is. And it's got a sidewalk, and it's got lights, and it's got parts of the bike trail. Probably only parts, because I don't only parts. And it's got a little roundabout down at 22nd Street, it's got some traffic calming.
Yeah,
That's going to be a majorly huge, project that is in the area of, you know, of the Meadows area to bring that sort of, we have done Argentine from 15th to 6th. And part of the reason I pester Rick is I have been on road projects in this town since the year 2000. And
Or
sometimes.
you be nice to him.
Oh, Hey, I say she's not an intern, okay? I don't take that ticket like that, she's not an intern.
But I'm saying that that's another huge road
Yes.
project. Yeah, that hopefully in the fall, we will know whether we have all of the funding for, and that's, yes, the town also has in the budget the match to that.
And is that a grant you're going after?
It's,
She already got.
I got one, I got half of it.
Yeah.
I don't have the other half of it. I have applied for the other half.
You're a wonder.
No, I just, that's what I do. I mean, that's what, that's, because in order for us to get things done in this town, we have had to have grant support. And that's why over the years I've learned who to apply to and who to ask, and that's why I can say I know something about, well, actually, I've been at street since 1986, haven't I, Mark? This is not where is it? I should quit now, right?
Okay, so-
Yes, you can say it.
I said, could we get a Main Street grant for Strauss Park?
Well, that's what we're doing.
Working on that?
That's the other, that's the small grant. That's the little one.
Yeah.
That's only a quarter of a day.
That's only for.
Hey, I'll take it.
Yeah.
So it was last year, so you know.
Nice. So very interesting, we need to move on versus losing interest here.
I'm trying to bring it home.
You can leave.
I'm gonna say, I didn't have to worry about that.
Okay, so has anybody read the minutes? I did not see anything.
I didn't see it. I move that we accept the minutes as written.
Your second,
I'll second.
all in favor? Aye. Anybody have anything else they need to talk about?
I'll just give a quick update. Cindy and I have been working on follow-up letters for the demolition by neglect. And 3 letters were sent out, 2 second letters, Koski and Tink something.
Danco Wells.
Danco, yeah, those were 2, that's the second letters were sent out. And then Cindy helped with the whole house, so thank you, Holy House, thank you. And so that was tweaked just slightly and sent out as well, so.
Okay. And the Polly House is the first sort of opening, we did a review, we've noticed these things.
Yeah.
And please let us know what you plan to do.
Excellent.
So it's the very soft white version.
Okay, kind of gentler version. All right, so we adjourn?
Yep.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Mike.
So, okay.
And I'll come back and get the rocks tomorrow, you don't mind, right?